Hello, myself Sunil Ramakrishna. Here, basically, one of the topic is that is city creation. How basically the cities are created. One of the person told that basically this 20 percentage error basically that is there, right? Basically, so one of the person told that basically who actually creates the city. So one of the person told that basically president creates the city, prime minister creates the city, or basically the parliament house group basically creates the city. So one of the person told that basically this all basically s- have the basically are basically kept in front of the front basically in front of the world basically, but they also basically creates it basically, but the full credit basically and the full task basically which do basically that are totally different people basically. So one of the person asked the question basically, uh, that this 100 plane basically which is getting crashed and the land basically which is getting divided basically, that basically the presidents and prime minister basically of the any of the country basically might be knowing this. Then one of the person told that basically 98 percentage basically they might not be knowing. That is not possible basically. The reason this type of things basically are done by some different group only basically. That basically government basically mostly basically does not know this. Government basically few government says that basically we don't know that also that earthquakes equal to incidents basically, and incidents basically are created basically few people basically, but most of people basically the people basically who are senior group basically they know that basically incidents basically how it gets creates. For that basically I have taken the example of Canadian, Chinese, Japanese, Pakistanis, and European, USA. So like this basically the incidents basically are created. That basically we have already taken the example, right? Basically. So in this one of the person told that basically that means the few presidents and the new people basically of the presidents and the India president or basically Indian prime minister, they might not be knowing that. They mostly people basically might not be knowing this, that 100 a plane gets crash, and that also basically we are also not confirmed na, basically that really basically it's going or basically it's just fake only basically. Few people says that basically nobody directly do the comment in the blog basically. Reason each and every blogs are checked, then only basically it has published basically. Reason within few when you publish the blog basically, that time basically few 1 or 2 second basically are taken basically. Within that 1 or 2 second basically that somebody is checking it and that is approving it basically. This is the system of vlog basically. So that was approved by someone, that means basically somebody know that basically that this type of activities is happening. In this basically I am 100% sure the software industry also basically might be getting into this. So in this 100 plane crash basically lots of software professional also basically might have died. They might have disappeared with the family only basically. I am 100% sure basically. But this type of thing basically never gets into the front. Reason the banks basically are also involved in this basically. World Bank are involved. World Bank basically are handled by the other than parties basically. They never gets this type of activities in front of the public, right? Because bank's activity basically anybody can track basically. If one person want to activate his ATM card basically, then he can activate. That is basically he's dependent on the banks, no, basically. He basically directly can't activate the ATM card basically. He have to put the ATM card into the this that basically, then mobile number gets verified. Then basically you have to tell that basically yes basically I am the person basically who is doing the activation. Then he goes to bank. This type of process basically happens. Few people like big banks basically they have the control of ATM, the video basically. From the video basically they do the verification of the each and everything basically, and then basically the verification happens automatically. That basically are very big level banks basically. They say that basically we trust video recording also. Few people says that basically we don't trust video recording also. So that type of things are basically are also there basically. So like one of the person told that basically few people basically don't know that also basically. That is the plane crash incident basically. And earthquakes is equal to incidents also. That also basically very few people basically who keeps on monitoring the incidents basically, then only basically they can understand, because they are basically busy in the set of activity. They never gets to think, they basically never gets time to think this type of activities basically, whether basically earthquake is connected with incidents are created by the company, sorry, incidents are created by the USA and Canada and the Chinese and the Japanese and the Russian group basically are into the incidents creation. And this comes connects to the business basically. This connects it directly to the business basically, but directly connects to the sales basically. So that is also basically there. Sales and business basically are very dangerous thing basically. So one of the person told that basically this is the sales basically. So this is also basically comes into the sales. So one of the person told that basically 1300 city basically, which is the example which we have taken, that the earthquake basically is happened, and how basically they tracked the earthquake through the blood groups, through the earthquake basically was happened in the 1300 city, and in 1300 city basically the data basically was captured by that Canadian USA people basically. And then basically they basically gets their for example, this earthquake if happens, then basically this country do this type of activities. If that area basically earthquake happens, then they basically the another country basically do the activities basically. So just see basically up to what level the things basically are basically. Few people says that basically are in Earth planet basically really basically this type of thing happens here basically. Then it will then basically happens here basically. Then one of the person told that basically the um, cricket basically which is basically happening, that basically then is it's very dangerous game basically. Yeah. Then basically it is very dangerous game basically. Cricket basically which is happening. Reason that money basically black money. Few people says that basically that people basically died. That basically money where basically it goes. Few people says that it the money basically goes into the banking side basically. That is the cricket basically. Cricket basically handles this type of money basically, and then basically they connects to the banks. Then banks say finance. Banks means not one bank basically. It basically circulates to hundreds of banks basically. So that basically anybody is tracking that data basically or not basically. If he is tracking, then basically he knows this system basically. That also basically they tracks. That also basically they tracks. Then basically they know that basically these all are human clones, or basically they are real men, or basically human basically. That also they tracks basically. Then basically they track, so that also basically the financial firm basically which is designed in the front of the world basically, they are basically circulating this money. So they knows basically this whole thing basically. Then basically they circulates to the share bazaar. Then basically the whole world share bazaar basically, not only one share bazaar, whole world share bazaar. Like this they circulates to the whole world share bazaar, and then basically they tracks whether they also know or this or not basically. Like this basically each and every things basically are tracked basically. Like this each and every things basically are tracked. So after that only basically the money basically is dumped into the stock exchange. Here basically I had taken example of Bombay Stock Exchange, because currently I am in India, so I am just taking the example of India basically. But in real basically it might be any stock exchange basically. Few people says that the Kuwait dirham basically is the highest currency in the world basically. So it basically can anything basically. But this type of activity is also happening, that also basically it's not correct basically. It's correct or not correct, that is also basically, few people says that it's fake, few people says that it's correct basically. So who is wrong, who is correct basically, that basically nobody don't know basically. So in next video basically we are going to see a little bit more about this.